There we go. All right, give us a solid picture here. That's what we want. Let it catch up in its buffering. There we go. At least maybe a little bit of a lag, but I don't plan on doing jumping jacks. So we'll go with it.
Take it frame by frame.
Exactly. It's like old school, like clay animation. All right. All right, everyone. Hope you found us on the YouTube live. But we're going to go ahead and get started here. Forgive me for my lack of technical expertise, but we're figuring this thing out on the go. That's what a podcaster does, and we're just rolling with it. So, Mike, thanks so much for joining us today on the Origins Life podcast, taking the time to come and share your story. We've known each other for, it's crazy, almost, 7-8 years now?
Probably longer than that, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing because in Vegas, no one stays around that long. And, you know, to be able to have that kind of connection for that long length of time, no doubt throughout the conversation, I'll be able to kind of think back and remember, oh, that was that Mike, and then this was this Mike, and then now this is the current Mike.
Oh, yeah, I've transformed a lot since the time I've came to Vegas and left for a little bit and came back. It's
interesting for us being here in Vegas. No one is native. I mean, there's very few people that are native. Most people are transplants. But to be able to be in this town and to see people come and see people go and see people evolve and change, it's unique because in one aspect it's a downside because it's a very transient culture. But on the upside or the positive side is it's not stagnant. Like I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, middle America, right? Nothing changes. Like it just doesn't change.
Same in Tennessee.
Yeah, every Christmas I go back and I go to the YMCA and exercise there while I'm there. They still have the same water fountain that I drank out of when I was 7. So I'm 36. So you have this 40-year-old water fountain, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. I got it. That great mantra.
Yeah.
But some things just don't change. Out here, out west, especially here in Las Vegas, it's the Wild West. And culture is always moving. It's always fluid. It's always dynamic. So to meet people like yourself, it's just it does me well as a person to shape my influences and to broaden my perspective. So these interviews, although they're for others, I feel like I got the best seat in the house.
Wow.
So
thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. So the Origins Life podcast is designed to try to make sense of our life. We kind of look at our life in panoramic, so starting at the very beginning, and we kind of try to walk our way through the experiences of life as it shapes us and kind of molds us into who we've become as we are now currently. So we like to start at the beginning. We start with the childhood, where you were born, how you were raised, your parents' influences, all those things are huge in shaping us. So can we start from there, your upbringing?
Yeah. I was raised in Woodstock, Illinois. And a lot of people think I was raised at the Music Fest, Woodstock, which not really, because that's, it happened in the 70s. I was born in 1980, so I'm 37. But from there, I didn't stay there long. We went back to Tennessee. That's where my mom and my father kind of split ways. I was raised mostly all by my mother for the most part, on and up to my teens where my grandmothers kind of took over. We didn't have the worst childhood, but didn't have the best either. I made best of what I had. There's a lot of things that I've seen as a child that I don't think a lot of people should have seen, but at the same time, it's made me who I am today. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, that's well. Some of those things that you saw that you didn't want to see as a kid. Let's start from there.
It's funny now, it's something that my grandmother, was one of the stories that she used to say, but back then it wasn't as funny, but I seen things like I would emulate. We went to McDonald's one time, me, my mother, and my grandmother, and we had burgers, fries, and I lay out a line of ketchup, and I took my French fry, and I went to snort it like I was doing cocaine. And this was before the age, I believe, of 5. So, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot at an early age. I mean, I was raised in a bar. My mom, you know, she did the best she could, and I love her to death. You know, I wouldn't change anything we ever went through. She had me when she was 21. My father was 26. We grew together, you know. She did the best she could, and she taught me a lot of good things. So, I mean, it's a blessing to have someone in your life that you can relate to, you can look for guidance to, and things like that. And they're there to comfort you during you know, your childhood. I do believe at times, you know, life got the best of her in some situations, but I mean, like I had to say, man, I wouldn't take anything back. One incident I feel like I lost my innocence was at 5 years old. Her and her boyfriend at the time, which I love him to death, you know, he's passed away now, but at the time he was my father figure. They fought like cats and dogs. I used to watch them literally punch each other in the face. One day we were coming home. It was late at night. We lived close to a factory, and it was very raining. You know, the weather was, you know, pretty bad out. So we're going into the little apartment we have, and they're arguing as we go in, and then something escalates as they're arguing, and he threatened to blow my head off with a shotgun at 5 years old. So when I heard that, I just freaked out, and I ran. The only thing I knew to do is like, all right, it's like, I guess, kill or be killed. But at 5 years old, I don't know how I had that instinct. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that could, you know, go back to like whatever we get as a, like, I don't know where I'm going with that, but right. I was so shocked and scared at that time. I just felt like I just need to get out of here. So it took them a pretty good, I was saying, about an hour to find me. And then once they found me, they realized like, oh shit, you know, we did this in front of him, and this has affected him. So I had to deal with that for a long time, and that's actually, I had to face that not too long ago to like get over it. And I think I've been doing that, you know, ever since my accident, which we'll get to that too.
Yes.
I just been trying to work within and, you know, grow within and then help people as I go.
Yeah. So starting at a very early age, having a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, lack of security in your home and in your family life, it doesn't sound like that was an isolated incident. It probably continued, I would assume.
Oh, yeah.
Those types of, you know, troubling events.
Nah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was a knucklehead as a kid. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have the father figure that I really needed to give me the examples. My mother did that, and she did the best she could. She told me how I should treat a woman, you know, things that you should do for them. But you still, I feel you still need a man to give you the confidence to approach that lady or that woman, whomever. I didn't have that. I had to learn that myself. Yeah.
So boyfriends came and gone, would come and go throughout your life, or was there any consistent male figures in your life?
As we got older, yes. She married my stepfather at the time, which is my brother and sister's father. I believe around 87, so I was around 7. Okay. They had my sister in 88, and that's when they started their family. And with him, you know, he did a lot of good. You know, he helped me with my homework. With him, I was an average D student, you know, slow learner. I had disability in learning, which back then you didn't really know about, so they just put you in a special ed or chapter class. And, you know, those teachers would help you as you go. So I was in a slower reading class to, you know, because I had dyslexia, and I didn't know. So we would go to these classes and things like that, and it actually helped me out because, you know, I kind of figured out, like, all right, I'm not the smartest person in the classroom, but, you know, I'm learning more with hands-on experience than I am through a textbook.
Yeah. In a way, those small environments became the nurturing that you probably longed for as a kid.
In some aspects, yeah.
So your childhood, although it was troublesome, it was turbulent. There also seemed to be some consistency. So like there was a little bit of security woven into it through your mom's efforts and school environments and whatnot. So you kind of have a story. It sounds like of a little bit of a mixed bag of turbulence and security. So tell us about your upbringing then, as far as obviously you're now getting the environment you need in your school. How does it progress from there?
I mean, the environment in school, I was picked on as a kid because I wasn't as financially able as other kids. So I related to other people that were kind of like in my type of situation, you could say. So, I mean, it's kids, you're going to get picked on and things like that. And it seems like today it's getting worse and worse to the point where, people are taking their lives. I didn't get to the point when I was young. I mean, I got called names. I was called by, I went to one point in my life, I went to a Christian school with my grandmother, and it was a private school. And let me tell you, I was the dumbest kid in the school, hands down. And I mean, I'm just being honest, because like, we would do, we would name the chapters of the Bible. Everybody is on the second, chapters and everything like that, and I'm still trying to work on the first and trying to get them down. Even going to school, my first kindergarten, I had to take it twice. I didn't know how to spell my name. I didn't know where I lived. So I didn't have like to like get your mind focused on your work. I mean, what I seen was partying.
Yeah.
So.
And it's crazy because you're not developmentally challenged. It was just your environment. It seems like, a lot of the delay in your schooling, whatever your academic level, if you want to call it that, really it sounds like it was part and parcel because of your situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that.
So tell me about your religious experience there in that Christian school. Because were you brought up in a spiritual home before that, or?
Yeah, I was brought up. It's pretty funny. Church of Christ and a Baptist, and one Methodist preacher told me, like, you probably messed up in the head with that mixture. But I mean, as a kid, I was raised pretty much more Baptist. But when I would go to my other grandmother, we'd always go to Church of Christ. And it was always weird when I would go to that church, I would wear shorts and I'd get these weird looks. I didn't know at the time Church of Christ people do not believe in wearing shorts or dancing, things like that. That may has changed since, back then, but my grandmother, she's like, you just do whatever you want to do, I'm going to let you be you. And it was funny, she bought me my first Chris Collar's outfit, which was bright orange pants with like these cartoon logos with
nice
backward clothes and stuff like that. Because back in that
crisscross,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
gonna make you jump.
Yeah, there you go.
Mac Daddy make you
jump.
That's right. Sorry for those people that are under 35, but go back and check out YouTube. 90s rap and hip hop was a different time. So this is all in Tennessee, correct?
Yes.
All these experiences are in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it's what has been known as the Bible Belt, which it's a very religious environment. Even today, I would assume it still has much of that flavoring. Out here, out west, there's none of that. So you were exposed to spirituality or faith at an early age. Do you think it took, as far as at a young age, did you sense that it was something that you were owning, or was it something that was just being taught to you and you were kind of letting it run off the duck's water off the duck's back, so to speak?
I mean, it's funny because when I was younger as a kid, I would go to classes at the beginning, and then when we have the main service, we'd go and listen to the preacher. There's at times I would listen to him, but as a kid, I had more interest in coloring and things like that. I didn't really start getting a feeling until I got older and started feeling something inside. Like, I don't know, it's like I come from two people, my mother and my father, which they really don't think they are, but I know they are. They're empaths. Mm-hmm. And I am too, and I'm like 10 times that now.
For someone that may not be familiar with the term, can you briefly describe that?
Empath is a person who basically can feel other people's pain. They're very sensitive. They can feel energy around them. Some of us are introverts because we can't, we don't like taking on other people's pain. I mean, I give kind of like a brief description. I mean, I think if you really want to look into it, definitely Google it and see if you may fit that category as well. And it took me a while to figure that out because when I was younger, I'm like, why am I so sensitive? It's like I'm a man. Why am I having these feelings like this? But I guess it goes back to I've always been in tune with my feelings, my inner self in my heart, even at an early age. But I didn't really understand it until I got older, and I'm still learning it right now.
Right, you're a thinker.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I don't overthink, but I mean, there's times where if I don't watch myself, I can let my brain get the best of me, which, I mean, I think everyone does that.
Absolutely.
Especially we create a thought in our head and, kind of like spirals out of control, or you're like, whoa, what am I doing? So, yeah, it's something that's another thing that I've been doing is controlling my thoughts, living in the moment.
It's hard to do. So tell us about your high school years then. So obviously you're not in Tennessee now. I mean, there was obviously a time where there was transition and you were becoming your own person, forming your own ideas. So kind of tell us about those teen years.
Teen years, my freshman, sophomore year, kind of was outcast. Didn't really talk much. But I was into sports. My freshman year, I played football and baseball. And tried to play basketball. And my sophomore year, I started just playing strictly baseball. And my junior year is when I started seeing people like me more, and I started having more people notice me, which in turn I kind of figured out why that was, other than I was good in baseball, but I started selling drugs too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, hey, you want to smoke some weed, go talk to this guy. And my nickname back in Tennessee was KD, so that's where everyone was like, hey, go to him, he's got weed. I mean, everyone pretty much sold weed back there, but
right.
In high school, I think that's another reason why I kind of got more known, and probably not for the best reason.
Sure. So you're, in a way, that made you more social.
Yeah, I guess so. I was very social in the sense of going to parties and, socializing with people. I actually was hanging out with guys older than I was. I mean, I was going to nightclubs at age 15 using a fake ID of one of my friends because we look very similar. So, I was always out doing things that, I was probably not should be doing, but yeah, I was there doing it.
Yeah. So, how did you get out of Tennessee then? So when did you leave?
I left in 2003. It was an opportunity to move away from there and come out here. So I took it. I didn't at first. It was just to come out to a vacation. I was going to drive out here. And let me tell you, that was the worst drive ever. Halfway here, or halfway to Vegas, something went wrong with the motor in the car. I think it had something to do with, there was 18-wheeler in front of us. It had a blowout, which the tread of the tire rode off of it in what they call a gator. So I was right behind the truck as it had its blowout, so I had to run over the tread, because if I swerved to the left, I would have, hit another car. So after I hit that, just the computer system in the car just went to crap. And we got stuck in a small town called Okomogi, Oklahoma. Okomogi, Oklahoma.
Wow.
That is the hometown of Troy Aikman, by the way. That's the only good thing they have about that city.
Troy put Ogimogo on the map.
So stayed there for 7 days. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the car. I'm like, man, I just want to go back home. And they was like, all right, we can't figure it out. You can go to Tulsa, you can go to Oklahoma. I was like, take me to Oklahoma. We get there. They was like, all right, you have a blown head gasket. This is what you can do to make it to Vegas. Pour water in your car. Every time it starts getting hot, pull over, put water in your car. So we did that for 3 days straight and finally got out here.
What time of year was it?
I got.
Tell me in summer, right?
Yeah. It was
there you go.
end of June going into July.
Yeah, so for someone that has never been out this far, this area in June and July, you're going to see 120 easy, especially out in the middle of the desert, you're going to see 125.
Yeah, and I'm coming from a place that has humidity.
Yes.
Not just straight blow dryers blowing on you nonstop.
Yes.
Dry heat. Yeah, it was a total difference. And
so it was like the universe was telling you, stop, don't go, don't go.
I don't think it was telling me don't go. It was like, we're going to see if you really want to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna try you. We're gonna test you and see, how far you willing to go. So we finally get out here. I loved it so much. I flew back home, sold what I could, gave a lot of stuff away, came back with what I could, and started over.
Yeah. What did you fall in love with? What was the appeal of Vegas at that point in your life?
I mean, being from smaller town, things like that, it's just big city, opportunities. I've always wanted to live in California and LA. I mean, that goes back to like seeing things in movies and shows and things like that. And, in Tennessee, there wasn't really palm trees and things like that, no beach. We had rivers, lakes, ponds, but no, nothing like California had.
Yeah. Life was in California. It was the kind of the epicenter of what was.
As a kid, it was my close your eyes and go to place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you lived in that town in Tennessee. The name again was?
I lived in a lot of different towns in Tennessee. Predominantly lived in, I would say Trenton.
Okay.
Trenton, Tennessee, Milan, Tennessee, Fruitland, Jackson, Memphis.
Oh, wow, I moved around.
We moved around a lot.
But so primarily from Tennessee, you had no other state you lived in, and so your next jump was here to Vegas.
Yeah, directly.
Wow, that's shocking because you think of it. You're for 25 years, your culture, your knowledge, all of your experience is Tennessee.
Oh, it was 23.
23.
Yeah.
So at 23, you're driving across country and you're rolling into Vegas and you're just seeing the bright lights and you're seeing the possibilities and you're saying, I want to be a part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Now, why'd you choose Vegas and not California then? Or is it because the car didn't make it that far?
I have, I call it my adopted grandfather, Lamar. He lived out here. And, he tried to get me to come out back when I just graduated high school in 99. But I was working with a news affiliate called Channel 7 WBBJ right out of high school, as I was going to college. So I was like, no, I just want to do this. So from 99 all the way up to 2003, that's what I kind of did. But as I was doing the news, man, I started to get burnt out because I was seeing just a lot of homicides and things like that. One of my dearest persons in my life, my aunt, her name was Hope. She passed away in 95 in a car accident. So when I first went out to see these car scenes, man, I was overwhelmed with emotions.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Like I would just set the camera down, press record, and I'd walk away, come back, move the camera, walk away. But by the time I got to Vegas, I could see dead bodies from me to you, not that far, just been murdered, and I'm eating lunch.
So you stayed with the film industry, and that was what kind of brought you out here. It was a job opportunity then.
Well, no, that didn't bring me out here because before I left Tennessee, I actually quit that job, and I started working at the time roofing with at that time another stepfather.
Okay.
Which I roofed ever since I was like 12 years old. That's some grueling work.
Oh yeah.
So started doing that, and I was like, man, I made a big mistake. I shouldn't have quit. That was really good, I guess a good span of my time of getting out of high school and going into college and like learning a lot of stuff hands-on. I had the pleasure of interviewing Michael Jordan, when he played with the Wizards. I did like the sideline highlights on the basketball games. I was on the sidelines with Steve McNair in the 99 season where they almost won the Super Bowl. I've been, the volunteers, So I've done a lot of things, you know, with the production, but it just seeing all the dead stuff it just would drain you.
And for a lot of people, I think even myself included, seeing dead bodies is, I've maybe seen one, but it sounds like obviously that was a common occurrence for you, and it wore on you. Going back to your earlier statement, if you're an empath where you feel people's hurt, you enter into those environments and you can feel, I guess, that hurt energy all around you, and it's really kind of absorbing into you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the worst things I've seen out here was a double homicide where a man killed his fiance. They're out in the desert. He lights the car on fire and shoots himself in the head. When we get there, the fire is just out, and you can still see the dead bodies. I mean, I don't want to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's baffling. Why would someone want to even do anything like that to someone they love? But I mean.
So you worked in film and whatnot when you came out here for a period of time, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Not only did I work with the news, I worked with UNLV, doing with Red Vision, doing their sports games. I worked with Orleans Arena for 8 years, doing everything from the ECHL Wranglers to like motorsports, concerts, you name it. I pretty much done it when it come to a video production.
Yeah. So you wanted to make a change after a certain period of time, right? And I remember when I first met you that you were in video and working those jobs. I remember that. But so you're here in Vegas. You're starting your new life. You're into TV and video and production. Tell me how you transitioned out of that and for what reason, and give us the backstory.
Well, I transitioned out of it because in 2008, I go through a divorce along with the economy crashing. So not only did I lose my family, I lost my place where I lived. I lost my animals. I didn't have nothing, man. I had to live out of my car. And that was an eye-opening experience. I think that's the first time I ever went through true depression, to the point where, like, I would break down and cry.
Yeah.
I had a family, I had a life, you know, and then all of a sudden it was just taken away from me. There's nothing I could do about it. So, yeah, it was just that was the point in my life where I was like, I'm never gonna go through this again. I'm never gonna feel this way. I'm never gonna be in a situation where I'm in this much debt.
Yeah.
And
so that was 2008.
2008. Yeah.
So
I got a divorce. It was in the end of 2007, going into 2008. And what was devastating to me, within a month of me getting divorced, she was married and pregnant with the guy she was sleeping with, which was her recruiter out of the Army.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you met her out here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I met her actually. I was doing an Art Lobo love special. It was a February Valentine's special.
Yeah.
And she was front row. And we made eye contact, you know, and I thought everything was going good. You know, that's the first time I ever loved a girl that much, to the point where I asked her to marry me. However, I kind of was, in a way, I think I was kind of like pushing and asking her to marry me. But you know, I did it anyways. Yeah. At the same time, I was still young. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the best husband in that relationship, but I damn wasn't the worst either.
Yeah.
You know, I took in her kid, and I love him to this day like he is my own still. And if he ever needed me, I still would be there for him.
Right.
We spent 8 months when she was gone doing the boot camp and stuff. And then she comes back and tells me, well, you was never there for me. I want a divorce. What she didn't realize was I was at church praying for her the whole time. Taking our son, you know, to church, trying to, you know, give him the right direction that he needs, because I seen so much of him that what I was as a kid too, because he had a father at the time that was absent. You know, he had her boyfriends kind of mistreated him. So we had a special bond very quickly. I would do everything I could for him when it comes to his birthday, church things. Going to churches, and he loved going to church and like playing with other kids, and then doing birthdays and things like that. So I went out of my way to like give him things that I never had growing up.
Right. In this town, there's a great emphasis on flesh, and there's a great emphasis on the exterior, right? The vanity, and obviously with film,
yes.
I mean, you're thrown right in there, and it's glamorized. I mean, when people think of Las Vegas, if the first thought isn't glitz and glamour, the second thought is body parts.
Yep.
And so you're a young man starting over in a new town with a new wife, a new family. You're just thrown into this new environment, and all of a sudden it's totally upended. So
in shams.
Totally in shambles. So in a way, you're having to reinvent yourself. And at that point, you're almost 30?
Yeah, it was 28.
28. So at 28, you're at a crossroads again. Tell us about that time, when you're trying to pick up those pieces, and the marriage is dissolved, and obviously the connection to your adopted son is now probably severed, I would assume. So you're having to start over. So walk us through that. How do you go about that, from living in your car to those events that really launched you forward, pushed you forward?
I mean, at first it was overwhelming, but now that I look back at it, it was a blessing in disguise, to the point that it gave me motivation to not be satisfied with just an average life. There's so much more potential that we cut ourselves short, or we have fear inside our heads that gets in the way of us taking the next step towards our opportunities and things that, that are in us that we feel a need to get out, but we don't know how.
Yeah.
So,
and for the listener and for the person watching, my perspective over the last 8 to 10 years, seeing your life and kind of looking at it in kind of panoramic, it's interesting because when I first met you, Now I know it was your wife. At the time, I never asked, but I assumed it was your girlfriend. But I remember seeing the two of you together.
Well, I think that was the second girlfriend I had after I got divorced.
Okay.
You see me with she was Filipino, correct?
Filipino, correct.
Yes,
Okay.
she was the angel that came in after my divorce. She did so much for me. I mean, she even taught me forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, I remember you were probably 80 pounds heavier and not fat.
No. Yeah, well, I weighed
70?
close to 230 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much all muscle.
Yeah. So you were a yoked up guy. I remember that.
Yeah.
So you're Vegas, you're becoming Vegas in a way. I mean,
definitely.
You became this town.
Yeah, I became the buff guy that you think that is healthy and looks good, but the insides are just ravaged.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with colitis because of what I was doing. I mean, I was taking steroids.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating a lot more than what I eat now, and I don't necessarily think the steroids caused it. I think it was the fact that I was eating all these high carbs and sugars.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the meat did somewhat of it because, I mean, I'm eating 10 ounces per meal, and that's 6 meals a day, and that's between chicken and beef. So that's a lot too, and your vegetables aren't as much as they should be. For mine, what I was consuming wasn't.
Yeah.
So I started having problems. I mean, it started out as hemorrhoids and inflammation on the inside, and then it just was getting worse and worse and worse, and I was neglecting it because I was saying, hey, I'm just pushing heavy weight. I need to start breathing more, work on that. And, from there, I started having internal bleeding. And from there, it started coming out in my stool. And I still was being stubborn.
Yeah, didn't want to give up the lifestyle.
No. I mean, it took me so long to build what I had. And I think, going through my divorce is what gave me that drive. But I was using that energy the wrong way.
You were using it in a sense of rage? Or
No, I think It was just I was given an illusion. Basically, I thought I was living a healthy life, but I wasn't. I was overeating, partying, around, a smoky environment because I worked in the nightclubs. So, I mean, all that, took some type of effect on my body.
It was slowly catching up with you, and to the point where there's a line that you were pushed to where you realized this has to change. So what was that point in which you realized you couldn't put out these symptoms anymore? You hit rock bottom, and then you finally say, okay, I don't care about how big my muscles are anymore. I want to live. I want to be healthy. And then more than anything, I want to have a depth of life that is that's beyond the shallowness of these pursuits. So what was that moment?
Well, it happened like I was working at Hayes nightclub at Aria at the time. And I was transferring to Mandalay Bay to open Light nightclub. And it was sometimes at night just working, it was a struggle. Like my hemorrhoids would flare up, or something would happen. Like, I'm like, there's something going on. What's going on? So I finally had my last competition. It was the Grand Prix in LA. The day of the competition, I didn't really feel anything because I didn't eat that much. But that night afterwards, I indulged in sushi galore. And that's when I started eating the sushi, and all of a sudden I was like, oh no. I had to run to the restroom. And then I'm just in agonizing pain in my stomach. And then I go back out. I'm like, man, there's something wrong. So at this point, it's like, I know there's something going on. It's just building up, but at the same time, I'm still neglecting it. I'm still pushing it off to the side. Like, everything will be all right. Just keep doing what you're doing. And at work, I would start getting lightheaded when I'd bend down or stand up too quick because I was losing blood. And it actually started affecting my work to the point where I was getting punished because I wasn't in my sections. But basically I wasn't in my section because like I felt something coming on, like I'm about to pass out. I need to get out of here. And I didn't want people at work to know, because then I was like, oh, he can't do the job, or maybe they feel sorry for you. And I didn't want neither one of those. I could do the job. I didn't want you to feel sorry for me. And I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my body at this point. So you're kind of stuck between that I'm functional but dysfunctional as far as physically. No, I'm a wreck.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of keep it together, but at the same time you can't. So you're able to get the job, but to be the consistent presence there, you're not able to do that any longer.
I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to maintain, and I'm being stubborn to my own body telling me, "What are you doing? Stop." I didn't.
Yeah. So at that point, it's getting unmanageable. And what was this like that? Was there a day where it just all came crashing down?
The day after we left California on the way back to Vegas, which is 4-hour drive, depending on traffic, there were so many times we had to stop. I mean, I was just going to crap my pants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a grown man, can't even hold that in. And I knew at this point, I was like, there's something wrong. I got to get this looked at. I mean, I would have restroom. I don't want to get too graphic about it.
Sure.
But I go, man. Take a number 2. Let's say it like that. And then I look down and it looks like a murder scene. It's nothing but blood and turds floating around. Literally blood. I mean, like someone just stabbed you.
A large amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And me thinking at the time is like, oh, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with this. You'll get it under control. Figure it out. And it was just, once again, I was listening to other people telling me how I should eat to get to that size, but I wasn't listening to my own body.
Yeah. So you finally had to go to the hospital and have it checked out.
So yeah, I went to the doctor to do a checkup, and my plans right after going to the checkup was to go work out. I get to the doctor's office, I'm feeling good. Well, I mean, I feel like shit, but at that time, that's how I felt, so I adapted, and I feel good. So the doctor comes in after he does a couple of different things, and he's like, we have to get you to the emergency room right now. I'm like, Doc, what are you talking about? I'm about to go work out. He's like, no, you're not. He was like, if you'd have been 10 years older, you probably would have had a massive heart attack. Now, I'm 34 at the time. Maybe 33 going to 34. He was like, if you would have had an accident and cut yourself on the way here, you would have bled to death. You have no blood in your body enough to hold you over to get to the hospital, to have them stitch you up and have more blood put into you. And I had to have blood donated to me. I had 2 paints, and that's experience too of a different type of energy that enters your body. And I had to stay overnight to make sure my body didn't reject it, which it didn't. But with all that coming down on me, I knew I had to change. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went in to have a colonoscopy, and that's when it came back I had colitis, which is, people that don't know, is irritation of the colon.
Where basically the lining or the walls of the intestines become lacerated, cut.
Yeah, it's an autoimmune disease. Your own body is fighting you.
Right.
And I was borderline almost cancer.
Almost to colon cancer.
Well, I mean colitis does lead to colon cancer if you don't correct it.
So basically, it's just the toxins entering into your body and your body not being able to fight it off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, me being stubborn.
So tell me about the changes you started making then. So so now that you know you have to change, now you've left the hospital, now you know your diagnosis, now you know why you've been having these problems. What did you start doing to make changes?
Oh, at first I fought it. I didn't want to change because I felt like I was going to lose everything I gained. And then I realized, like, you want to die like this? I mean, imagine yourself as a car. You have a nice $100,000 car, but you don't have a motor inside to run it. It just sits there and looks good. That's how my body was. It was not working right. And I was just having an illusion on the outside. So I started just using Google, YouTube, things like that, and I came across Dr. Gershon, which actually cured cancer back in 1942. And his big thing was juicing with raw vegetables and in high doses. So as I was reading that, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to juice. I'm going to wait 15 to 20 minutes, let my body absorb the nutrients it needs, and then I'm going to eat a little bit of protein, rice, carbs, whatever. And I did that for a while, and it was actually working, but I was spending godly amounts of money buying crates, literally crates of different products, cabbage, char, kale. I was spending $300 a week, on vegetables alone, just the juice. But it helped me so much. And I was like, okay, well, this is helping me. What about maybe going vegan? And I never really completely went vegan. I say plant-based because I still wore leather. I wasn't like a typical vegan as not wearing anything kind of animal-made or anything. Yeah. So I went plant-based, and it was more work. It was a lot of work, trying to figure everything out. And then I kind of got the groove of it and knew that I had to keep my good fats high and things like that. So I did that for 9 months. And here recently, I chose to start including meat back in my diet, higher fats, pretty much low to no carbs at all. I just ate one sweet potato last night for the first time in 2 weeks. But rice, any other type of carb, I will not eat anymore.
Yeah,
because it's inflammation on my body.
And has that taken the colitis at least out of the picture for now?
Yes. Right. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's funny because I kind of sensed that I should have got rid of my carbs a long time ago, especially oatmeal, but I was so in love with oatmeal.
Oh, yeah.
That, it was something I used to eat as a kid. So I was like, I'll just try to get organic, gluten-free. And some of the products that I got like that would work, but other ones wouldn't. So I finally had to just give it up altogether. And since I've done that, man, I've felt like the inflammation has went down, and it's continuing to go down. But with all the years that I was eating that way,
yes,
it's going to take as many years to get it back on the right track.
Absolutely.
Because as a kid, man, I mean, my mom worked at a vendor type company, so she would bring home all the stale products, you know, food sandwiches, things like that, microwavable,
all carb processed preservatives.
So I mean, I grew up eating microwavable pancakes and chicken and biscuits and sausage and biscuits, you know, microwavable stuff.
Yeah.
So of course that's going to have, you know, effect on your gut biome and affect it, along with the like the microwavable dinners I ate as a kid.
Yeah, which you're putting all the plastic into that food. When you put it in there and click start, you're just baking all those chemicals right into the food that you're putting into your body.
And all the preservatives they spray on it as well.
You know, it's amazing that we can even last as long as we do living that way. Obviously, yours was amplified, I believe, because of the weightlifting, because the demands that you put on your body and the muscle demands, the cellular demands. Obviously, it was a recipe for disaster. So you just amplified the process. What someone else, they're not bodybuilding, not doing steroids, just living the daily life, eating all those things. They can keep that up for 40, 50, maybe 60 years because they don't have that high demand, that a weightlifter does. So you came up to that crossroads at an earlier age than most, but you knew your whole life had to change, and you started making those changes. From the time you figured out what you had until now, how long has that been?
When I was diagnosed, around 33, and I'm 37 now.
Okay, so for 4 years you've been YouTubing, Googling,
still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
And even you said recently you kind of added some meat back into your diet and started adding more fats. So you're still figuring that process out.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time I would just be nauseous at the thought of eating a pork chop, bacon, barbecue, anything like that. But now I just don't think about the animal. I mean, I love animals. Don't get me wrong. But it's the food chain.
Yes.
I mean, but it can also be ethical.
Yes.
We have to get away from the industrial way, because that's a lot of pollution going on and going into our bodies. You know, the way that they do it. So we can find better alternatives. That's the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know about the modern meat process, I mean, go to YouTube, and the way the animals are treated. Even they say now, even the stress that is in
the stressor that's released in their body.
The stress chemicals are just flooding the meat, and then they're pumping them full of hormones. Those animals know they're in trouble, and they're always at a heightened state, and those chemicals, those signaling, that all gets into the meat. You put it in your mouth. So we're eating the meat that we're eating is filled with artificial hormones, steroids, all kinds of stuff. So it's not even just the bad grain that we're eating. It's even the bad meat and all of its tainted sources. So you're having to just relearn not just how to eat, but you're having to relearn how to live. I know we talked on the way over about sleep and how to get better sleep and how to get the body the rest it needs. It is a long, arduous process of relearning how to live, because the standard American model of living is totally unsustainable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I don't know. Could we go back to hunters and gatherers? I mean, can we do that?
Yeah.
And still operate in the society we have now?
Yeah. I guess it depends on where you live, huh? If we go back to Tennessee, maybe we could find some.
Yeah, you can get away with it there and other places where you can hunt.
Just being, I guess, reconnecting to our ancestral roots is really, I guess, maybe the banner that could be flown over the conversation is, how do we reconnect with who we've been as human beings for many,
I think
many
we
years.
should start with finding out who we are ourselves individually.
Sure. How do you do that? What does that process look like for you?
I mean, it's an everyday process. I mean, I just try to watch things to manifest myself to a better person. I don't compete with anybody other than who I see in the mirror.
Yeah.
I gave that up a long time ago. I mean, we all deal with insecurities, but if you let them go and just be at one with yourself, don't compare yourself to the next person, because we're all unique in our own different ways, and we're all the same at the same time.
Yes.
So it's all about not trying to hold somebody back to get to where they want to go. Support them. Let's all support each other to go to what are our destinations in life. Because a lot of people they have everything in the world besides love, and they're missing love, and their whole world is miserable. Even though they can go wherever they want to, when they want to, they have all the finances they can think about, but they're still lacking that one thing. And I've seen that a lot when I was in Beverly Hills.
Yeah. I mean, that whole topic of living in Beverly Hills, that's a whole nother subject.
My Weezer song I listened to growing up. I think that's another reason I wanted to go to L.A.
And I remember talking to you before you left. I remember seeing you at the gym, and you told me that you were going to go live in L.A., and then you were gone for about a year?
Almost a year and a half.
Yeah. And then I remember when you came back, talking to you, I could just tell by your response that it didn't live up to the hype. Like when you were, I remember asking you, well, what did you think? And just like the body language was just like slumped over. And
I think I was more depressed. I was back in Vegas than actually not being in LA. But I mean, I love Vegas just as much as I love LA. However, I think LA has a little bit more perks. You know, the ocean. It's the weather somewhat changes during the day and the night in the sense of it drops degrees. But I mean, Vegas is a great place to live. It's very affordable. To me, it's like the suburbs of LA. It's 4 hours away, 45-minute plane ride. So, I mean, and the more I look at Vegas, the more that we're expanding to be like a small LA.
Yes.
We're already, the traffic here is, horrible during the day.
Right.
And it's nothing compared to LA, but it's getting there.
Yeah. It's a very multicultural city. We don't have the population of LA or even like a New York, but this is a very diverse city where you have basically every tongue and every tribe present on the planet is probably here.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love having like different cultures around. It just, for me, I like to take something from everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes with the religions, philosophies, just ideas in general.
We learn from each other.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm from a small town, dirt roads that I grew up on. And, I've been outside of my parameters. I went to Paris, France, England. I actually went to New York, never thinking that I would ever go to any places like that. But I've, been blessed to been able to travel there.
All through your job?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's why you lived out here in Vegas, or when you were back in Tennessee, were those opportunities allowed?
Oh, no, I didn't. I mean, if I would have went after those ideas back in Tennessee, it'd probably been harder to get. It would have been harder to find people than it is out here or in LA. Mm-hmm. Just the resources are not there. But at the same time, the resources are more. They're easier to get now because of the internet, and then the way social media is. When I was growing up, you really didn't have that. So, like, small country boy that wanted to become a model at back in the 90s didn't know how. Well, now you know how. You have everything in front of you. So, what I would tell people is, whatever you're passionate about, go for. You're going to hit bumps in the road, but that's going to build your character. And whatever life throws at you, don't get depressed about it. I mean, there's going to be times when you're going to get down, but try to find that positive outlet, focus on that, and press forward.
I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, Mike, but you were recently involved in a major car accident that should have taken your life and should have taken the lives of others. Obviously, you're seated here and you do walk, right? But given the severity of the accident, it's a miracle that you're alive, that you can walk, that you have all your faculties.
I'm very blessed.
Can you tell the audience about that experience?
Oh, yeah, it happened January 27th. I remember like it's yesterday. I can get emotional about it too.
It's all right. Take your time.
But no, I'll get past it. Basically, I woke up 1:30 at night, because I was at work the day before, and I came home with some donuts, and I indulged the donuts, so I kind of got sick because I ate so many. So by the time I got up that night, I was planning just to go to the store, which is 2 blocks up from where I'm staying, to get some food to come back and cook. So I pull out of my neighborhood, and it's not even a quarter of a mile from where I live. I get to the light, and I look up, and I see a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed directly at me, and it's a red light. So with the seconds that I did have, it was like, what do? I knew I was about to get hit. I accepted it. So do I punch my gas and go left or go right? But what if he corrects and goes the same way? So I let my body go limp, and right before I got hit, because I felt the impact, but I was out right after that. My instinct was just to smash the gas, to try to take away some of his momentum of hitting me. The reason why I think I did do it is because the officer asked me, did I pull out in front of this guy? Did I run a red light or anything like that? And I just told him, I was like, no, sir. Basically, I felt like if I pressed the gas, that would kind of alleviate some of the impact of him hitting me, in which I believe it did. We traveled over 400 feet. We went through the median. My car goes through the oncoming lanes, which thank God no cars were coming. And it did, I guess it spun around and did a U-turn and landed on the curb. Well, his velocity sends him through a gated apartment complex. He takes out the first floor porch completely. And they're just with arm length, not even arm length, away from running into the bedroom of where they were sleeping. So he takes out the porch, takes out 4 AC units, and comes to a stop head-on at the adjacent unit next to it. And all his injuries pretty much were very minor. When I came to, at first, I thought I was watching a movie. I'm looking around. I'm like, something's not right. I'm watching a movie. No, I'm a part of the movie. And I feel myself, and I'm like, well, I'm not dreaming. So I'm like, what am I doing? I'm hearing people in the background, and I hear this one voice. He's just frantically yelling, oh my God, in pain. And something comes over me like, relax. Let's take this in, and let's figure it out. Because right now I'm supposed to be cooking. I'm supposed to be getting some groceries. Where am I at? What am I doing? And I'm in some type of pain, but I'm in so much shock. And I think they gave me some, medication by then to kind of reduce the pain. That I wasn't overwhelmed with pain, but I did almost bite off a quarter of my tongue. They had to stitch that back. I felt him sticking the needle in, numbing it more, taking the hook needle with the thread and going through my tongue. And at this time, I'm in a meditative state to not go frantic, because I'm still so messed up. I had trauma to the brain along with bleeding. It broke my right shoulder. I had to have 8 screws with a plate, emergency surgery. My right index finger was almost cut off. I have tendon damage. It's getting better. And the funniest thing about it is my sensitivity is it's so amped now, and I can't figure it out why. But like just earlier, just me thinking about the accident, I kind of got choked up. And I mean, that goes back to like me being aware, like I'm blessed to be here right now, you know, because I've had an aunt and a grandmother, a mother and a daughter, who've been in accidents and didn't make it. 10 years apart, 5 miles from each other in Tennessee. Yet I'm still here. So
it's for a reason.
It's got to be.
So your recovery has been, I mean, pretty miraculous if you're asking for my opinion. The fact that you were hit that hard. The guy they estimated him at going 100 miles an hour.
Correct.
So he was drunk, fell asleep at the wheel, and just kind of, his head slumps over, his foot hits the pedal, and that engine's just redlining, and you're right in his path.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, that you're walking and alive today, that's miraculous.
The one good thing, I guess the positive I think I take out of this is, first and foremost, I saved someone else's life, because there's no doubt in my mind if he would not have hit me, if he had hit someone head on, it's possible that neither one of them would have been there. So I'm looking at it as much physical pain as I have went through and still kind of go through. I feel like I saved someone else's life from being taken.
Which is an amazing perspective to have on it, because most of our responses is, why me? You know, most of the response that we have is, I don't want this problem. I didn't ask for it. It came to me. And there's that loathing, there's that animosity. And no doubt you've had to go through that. You've had to process that.
Yeah, it was... I never really asked why me. Never did. I just knew it was some way for the universe to tell me, you need to go after your passion. Because I stopped going after that. I was just doing a 9-to-5 job that, you know, didn't do anything for me. I mean, other than pay a bill. Yeah. But it didn't fulfill what I have inside that I want to do. And, I mean, yes, I do dabble in modeling, and I'm trying to do more of acting, and I want to start out in background. But at the same time, that's not all I want to do. I want to help people out, you know, kids that may not have father figures, you know, like a big brother, you know, and give them direction. You know, I don't feel like I'm a role model, but I want to give people the opportunity to see, like, even though I come from, you know, a situation that not everyone comes from, I can still make something out of it. That does not define who I am right now.
Yeah.
You have the power to, you know, create who you want to be once you get the opportunity.
So the accident, in many respects, woke or caused you to have a reawakening to who you wanted to be, who you wanted to become as a person.
Yeah, it made me, I won't say more aggressive, because I've always been pretty much aggressive, but I think I'm not hesitating anymore. I'm not thinking, because if you let yourself think, sometimes you can talk yourself out of it. Yeah. Or if you give yourself that hesitation, that's enough for your body to, like, okay, he's doing something that we're not usually going to do, so what's going on? And then that doubt sets in. Because when I was young, I had a lot of insecurities. I had a lot of doubt. I didn't have confidence. Something to learn as I got older. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, like, just dive into it. Don't think, because when you think, you're going to create a false, you know, whatever reality you want to create. And that's probably going to derail you from what you want to go after.
Yes. If there was one thing you could leave the audience with as we wrap this up, we're hitting that hour mark. And I know your experiences are very broad and vast, but is there a way in which you would like to end this podcast that would leave the listener with something to consider in their own life? Is there a way you would like to end this that would help the listener in any way?
I would just say try to help the next person out. Pay it forward. I've been in situations that I've been helped out all my life. And I feel like them people helping me out, it's the least that I can do is help the next person. So, I mean, if we're all, like I said earlier, come together as one and help each other besides trying to hold each other back, I mean, that right there can make so much of a difference. I mean, I'm an Omega guy. I'm not an Alpha. I'm Omega. And I'll always be like that. And I would say to people, if you don't know what the Omega guy is, look into it, because that may change your opinion about things.
Yes. You're one of a kind, Mike. Your experiences, your passion for life, it's rare. And, we look at our life and we sometimes, if we're not careful, we can just fall into the rut of other people's expectations, cultural expectations. I heard this quote recently, and I think it bears light on where we're going as people, but they said, collaboration is the new competition. In a Western culture, we have this idea of scarcity, or we've been fed this line of scarcity. 2 people, 1 resource. Who's going to get it?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts from the earliest of early ages. Whether it's in elementary school or whatever, we're programmed to think that the person across the table from me or across the way is my competition, and I have to get mine before they get to it.
I've been fighting that all my life.
Yes.
I don't like living that way.
Yeah.
I would rather share.
Yes. And I sense that there's a sweeping movement taking place, not just here in Vegas, but really just culturally, where we're starting to reevaluate all those things that we've been told as far as the scarcity or abundance. If you're living out of abundance, you're not going to see the other person as a competitor. You're going to see them as a co-laborer. And when we as human beings can find the diversity and find common ground, there's so much dynamic power in that, where 2 people from 2 different walks of life can come and agree on some very basic things, and we can interact and operate based on those things. And I don't have to conform to you or consume you in order for this relationship to work, that we can mutually exist as different people, but yet with the common desire for human flourishing. If we can make that preeminent, how much could we accomplish as people?
It'd be a better world, better place than we're living in today, that's for sure.
And we all bear a part of it. So, Mike, you're doing your part, and I'm so thankful for our friendship and for you being willing to share your story in front of an audience. That's a tremendous help for others, and I hope it's been a help for you too.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully it's not too scatterbrained as we started, because I went everywhere.
There's no script here, man. This is life. This is what we do. We just go with it. We roll with it. We let the conversation flow. So I appreciate you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, man.